Guys, so hopefully as you already saw on the outline for this week, we are starting a new unit. So we finished up chapter 9 and we're starting in on chapter 10. Except first we have to talk about circles because for some reason chapter 10 doesn't include circles. So we're going to do circles first and then we're going to start chapter 10. So chapter 10 is called Analytic Geometry, which is the same thing as conic sections. So that's what I'm mostly going to be referring to it as because that's the name that I know it by. And remembering to call it analytic geometry is just frankly not going to happen. So I'm going to be calling it conic sections. And in this video, I'm going to be explaining why it's called conic sections. So this is the closest thing to a cone shape that I found in my house. So I'm going to be using this, pretend it's a cone. Basically, pretend it comes to a point. Okay? So I wish I had a real cone, but I don't. So I'm going to be using this as an example. It's a basket, but anyway. So we're going to pretend this is a cone. Okay? It comes to a point. So conic sections are kind of exactly what they sound. They're sections of a cone. Basically, if I cut this cone in any way, the cross section that I would get would be a conic section. So if I cut it straight across the middle, then what I would cut through the cross section that I would see if I went like this after that cut would be a perfect circle. So our first conic section is a circle because if I cut straight across, the cross section is going to be a circle. If I cut sort of just a little bit sideways, so it's not straight across, but it's a little slanted, but it's still coming out the other side, not through the bottom, but it's coming out the other side. So it's going across, starting higher and coming out lower. If I cut through, then the cross section will be an ellipse. So that's the second thing we're going to talk about. The second shape is going to be an ellipse, which is just like a flat circle, right? So that's our second conic section. Now, if I cut it diagonal, but it goes through the bottom, right? So I'm cutting it diagonal, but it's going to go through the bottom. So I'm not going to have the full circle. It's going to get cut off. That's going to be a parabola. So you're probably thinking you know everything there is to know about parabolas. There's more. And so we're going to be talking about parabolas again because there are things that we haven't talked about before. So our third conic section is going to be parabola. And then now I want you to imagine there's an identical cone facing up like this. So there's one down, right? That comes to a point, and there's another one facing up. So imagine two cones that are touching at the point. So there's a point here, and there's a point, kind of like an hourglass, except for with cones instead of bowl shapes. So think of an hourglass, but they're both cones. That's what I'm wanting you to picture. If I cut straight through that, I'm going to get something like this, but I'm going to get two pieces of it. So I'm going to get a cut like that, and then on the one that's facing this way, I'm going to get a cut like that. That shape is called a hyperbola, and it's always going to have two pieces. So it's going to either be facing like this. They're not exactly C's. Let me see if I can get my hands to do it better. No, not working. So essentially, they're going to be either like this, so one facing up and one facing down, or like this, right? One opening to the left and one opening to the right. I know it's really kind of hard for you to see with me doing my acrobatics here. It's not working super well. But basically, you have two curves facing away from each other, whether that's right and left or up and down. And those are hyperbolas. So hyperbolas are always going to have two pieces. And they kind of look like parabolas, but they're a little bit different in shape. And so we're going to be talking about that. So that's going to be our fourth shape. And then after we're done with that, then we're going to learn how to rotate them. And then the very last thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about what their equations would look like in polar. So we've talked about that a little when we were learning polar, right? We did circles in polar. And I showed you a hyperbola in polar. So we've seen it, but it was a little bit more complicated. So we didn't go into that in a whole lot of detail. So we're going to do that more detail at the very end of this unit. So all of that is going to take us a while. It's going to take us a while to go through all of that because there's a lot of little pieces that we're going to be learning for each one of these shapes. They all have different things about them that make them interesting and useful. And if you can't tell, I actually really like this topic. So I'm really excited to talk about conic sections because I think they're super cool. And hopefully I can convey that when I'm teaching. I know sometimes I get so focused on what I need to teach that I forget to tell you why I think it's so cool. So hopefully I can convey to you why I think conic sections are cool. The sort of bedrock of why conic sections are cool is because we get these 4 shapes by cutting up a cone, and they're all super different and yet super useful. And so for each one, I'm going to be talking about why they're useful, and you'll see why they're different. We'll be going over and over that as we go through. I'll be saying, and this is what an ellipse has, and this is how it's different from a circle. And then I'll say, and this is what a parabola has, and this is how it's different from an ellipse. And then I'm going to say, and this is what a hyperbola has, and this is how it's different from a parabola and an ellipse. So I'm going to be referencing the others. We're going to be building on it as we go. So hopefully that will kind of all make sense as we put the pieces together. But I'm also going to be sharing some uses that we have for ellipses, parabolas, and hyperbolas. Hopefully you can see by the end why I think these shapes are so cool. If you can't tell, this is something that I really geek out about. So hopefully I'll be able to portray that while I'm teaching. Anyway, so in the next video, I'm going to be talking about circles. Again, circles aren't in the book, so I'm probably mostly going to be teaching them through Khan Academy assignments because those are just examples that I can pull up and draw from. So that's my plan. If I need to add in my own stuff, I will. But my plan right now is to teach through Khan Academy. So I won't be necessarily looking at all the Khan Academy assignments, but I'll be taking examples from the Khan Academy assignments and using them to explain what I think you need to know about circles. So that's the plan, and that's what I'm going to go do right now. So yeah. Hopefully you have an idea of where we're going with this unit, and hopefully you're as excited about it as I am, and we can do this. Side note, I know a lot of you are worried about tests and retakes. I'm working on figuring out tests. I'm working on figuring out both of those things. Bottom line is there are going to be tests and there are going to be retakes. I just have to figure them out, and it's going to take me some time. So we won't have a test this week, but probably next week. So stay tuned to hear more information about that. And I will see you in the next video.